Hello, welcome back to another audio-only review. This is a review of the miniseries Shazam! A New Beginning. This was a 4-issue miniseries published in 1987. It came out not long after the miniseries Legends. The series is written by Roy and Dan Thomas. This is a husband-wife duo who writes this awesome miniseries. And the artwork is by Tom Mandrake. Some people might recognize that name along with Roy Thomas. You might recognize his name on the trades for the Ostrander, for the Martian Manhunter and Spectre trades that collect the runs by John Ostrander. Yeah, he was a freaking collaborator of John Ostrander. This is actually one of his very few miniseries he's actually done. Now, as for Roy Thomas, now he actually wrote a lot of stuff for DC Comics back in the 80s, and this is one of his best works he's ever done. Him and his wife, Dan Thomas. That's really her name, Dan. It's D-A-N-N. It's a woman who is his second wife. He divorced his first one. I do not know why, and I don't care why he left his first wife, but yeah, him and his wife basically have worked together on several books since I'd say the early 80s, and they worked on a lot of books together, mainly a lot of either superhero groups or basically either solo books like this one. Now, this is a rebooted origin story, one of two that DC did prior to New 52 of Billy Batson's origin story as Captain Marvel. The other course was done by Jerry Ordway as a prelude to the awesome ongoing series known as Power of Shazam, which the Blackest Night issues collect in trade, but the series was not. The series itself this series here is only 4 issues long, so it's not going to take anybody too long to read it. The story is, well, basically that Billy has living with his Uncle Dudley, and apparently Dr. Savannah shows up claiming to be his mother's brother, maybe like a black sheep family, I don't know. And apparently he's kind of a cruel person in a way, but she doesn't find this out until after a child custody case. Yeah. And the only reason why now, there really was no real reason why Dr. Savannah actually wanted him. He just probably wanted to get away from Dudley or something like that. Oh, because he's actually the heir to a big fortune. That's the only reason I can personally think of why he decided to do it. But his kids are actually kind of nice. And they're not like how they are in Brave and the Bold. They look like very short and stocky and wear glasses. They actually look like normal people. Now, pretty much Savannah, basically, one of his plans is to sort of bring in, well, indirectly, he brings in Black Adam, of all people from another dimension. Something he actually has done before in the Brave and Bold cartoon. Now Billy gets his powers as Captain Marvel in issue 1. Now, he does point out the obvious thing that the original origin story of him that was published in Wiz Comics #2, that yeah, he was trying to save the Wizard Shazam from the granite block that was over his head. And now, when you read this particular origin story, it's not really much different from the original origin story. It's a little bit changes here and there. But yeah, there's more dialogue. Like, yeah, he says, you realize that you have a giant granite over your head, and Shazam's like, what granite? It's like he doesn't care. But he becomes Captain Marvel. He actually just sort of agreed to it in a way. And one major difference between that one, the original origin story, and this one is that there was actually a great door that was in the way of the entrance to the subway. And so he took a train down there, and apparently, now after he gets his powers, he does kind of tell, yeah, this is going to be his arch nemesis is going to be Black Adam, and yeah, he fights him in issue, I believe it's in issue 2. He fights Black Adam. In issue 3, you find out his origin story, which From what I can tell, it's not much different from his original origin story. Yeah, he was an Egyptian, though they retconned that he was a different country. Yeah, that's something that did change. It's also with the Blue Beetle as well, where they rebooted his origin story. Dan Garrett found the Kajida's tomb in Egypt, but it was basically changed to the fictional nation of Kuwait, which is Black Adam's home country. That they changed that for him and the Scarab. But they fight. They fight in issue 2 and 4. 3 is just the origin story of Captain of Black Adam, and how he gets the information is that he sort of conjures up the wizard's ghost, and he basically asks him about his backstory, and he tells it really well. Though there was no thing of basically people doing a parody of there's no. I know that there's a parody, Linkari did a parody voice of Wizard Shazam, where he says, yeah, and the writers would get you in pointless fights with Superman. Superman himself is actually referenced in here. So, yeah. And it's referenced that this miniseries, even at the end of the miniseries, it takes place just prior to Legends. So, this is so basically, when you read Legends, after you read this one, you're like, wow, it's like the way this thing ends, it leads directly into the miniseries Legends, since the miniseries takes place before that. So when you read it, it's like, oh yeah, Captain Marvel's been around for he just got started, and all of a sudden he gets tied up with Legends. But overall, this is one awesome miniseries to read. Black Adam himself at the end of the miniseries does go back to his own home, the mansion he was sent to, originally prison to. By issue 4, Savannah just disappears and gets needs to possible allies, and the issue kind of ends with apparently Mr. Mine, another enemy of Captain Marvel, in a whiskey shot glass. I'm like, does he know that he's there? But otherwise, though, great series. I give the series 10 out of 10. This series is just pure awesomeness at its finest. There is, however, one thing kind of bad about this miniseries. There is no trade for it at all. None. Absolutely none. DC has chosen not to put this miniseries in trade at all. I will mention before I go, I got a few minutes left to go for this, that there is a retelling of the original origins of Wiz Comics number 2, which there's some slight dialogue changes here and there. The artwork is a bit, it's different from the original artwork, and the papers that Billy Batson is holding does have something on them, unlike in the original origin story, which they were blank. But I had to mention that. I don't remember which issue it was, but I think it was like issue 10, when they and the issue itself is also written by Roy Thomas, who writes this one. So he writes Captain Marvel twice. Now, some of you might ask this obvious question. Why is the series always called Shazam, even though the character is called Captain Marvel? Mainly due to legal reasons from Marvel Comics itself, because Marvel has their own Captain Marvel. So, yeah, of course, that one's an alien. This one's a guy powered by magic. So, anytime that Captain Marvel's had a series, he's always had to use the word Shazam. Though in New 52, he is called Shazam. I have honestly no idea why his name was changed to Shazam. But if you want to read an awesome miniseries, check this out. I highly recommend it. Now, Ordway does do another retelling of the origin story, just sort of a setup for his awesome Power of the Shazam series. But even though that's another retelling like this is, it's still awesome. And I do highly recommend that too. And I highly recommend tracking down these issues. They were just awesome to read. So, yeah. But, yeah. That's it for now. Stay tuned for more audio reviews. My next one, my hoping in the future, I plan to do it in my next one on the miniseries Crimson Avenger. That's what I plan to do in the near future, which is also written by Roy and Dan Thomas. So, I will see you all when it comes to the next review. Okay? I will see you there. Bye.